Hi guys. Past day or two, I have been in the background running a couple of rounds of the competitive reviewer skill, and I've been thinking about the planner build, meaning to say, what does the planner skill look like? And I've actually been running into quite a few roadblocks in terms of thinking through what the core components of the skill should be, like what should it output and then where should it go. And that got me thinking, what is missing right now and should have been done in a lot more detail earlier is to really plan out the content engine end to end and not just have something that is sketched out briefly like this, right? The big problem that you have with this, although it tells you specifically what you need to build, for example, you must have a content strategy, you should be doing competitor research, that then flows into a content plan based on data on what's working, what isn't working, etc. Right? Now, again, these are great, but I find that if you really want to build something of value, there needs to be a synergy between how you intend to integrate the agent and its workflow into your life. Okay? In essence, you need to have ritual aligned workflows, right? And if it integrates into how you live your life and when you'll be doing certain things that interacts with your agent, then it opens up a couple of things. The first one is you can understand where things run in the background and when you need to be part of the equation. You are then time blocking specific parts in your day or in your week to make sure that you're making time to ensure that the engine has input from you. And that's something that I feel a lot of builders don't talk enough about. And what they show you is a machine that runs. Maybe the machine runs completely automatically. Good for them. But again, if you're building anything that requires a human in the loop, at least having a couple of approval gates, it is understanding how you batch a lot of the tasks together. So for example, as opposed to reviewing every day, I will review all of the written content that Eve will be writing for me on a Saturday, for example. So matching your rituals to your overall workflow and therefore your agent's architecture and how it's engineered is definitely a very big piece of the puzzle to ensure that these things are deployable into your life and therefore adding value to your life, and you're not like like staying on the course of what this agent is supposed to do for you becomes pretty natural because it's part of your ritual, right? So that's what we're going to be doing today. It's going to be more of an architecture type of session from which I will then highlight, the different pieces of the puzzle from which you will need a skill for something, and where does that skill output to, at what point will I be in the loop in terms of reviewing, and then after that what happens, and then we will even put it into like specific time of days, so then it's an engine that is built around my life as opposed to an engine that sits in isolation on its own, right? And that's part of the augmentation thesis. It's not about, just hand off and then see when it needs input from me, right? Because that's not efficient. Like every time it produces a piece of content, it's sending it over to me for my approval. What if I'm busy in a meeting? What if I'm with my son, hanging out, right? That draws me away from what's important at that point in time. So again, design your systems to your life and not have your systems invade your life. So how do we convert a lot of these things, right? And again, today, like all of the other deep build sessions, I won't be, I'll be moving quick. And when there are key concepts and opportunities to explain things, I will stop. But for the most part, what I'll be doing is turning off the mic and basically working through my build. Okay, so what I'm describing here in this, as I've come to realize on what I want to build, is for every Sunday before the week kicks off, for me to review what the content planner actually does. And what the planner is supposed to do isn't to decide what to write for that week, because my view here is that that's too slow, and I like to get ahead of the week as opposed to have to rush and create the content. So what should be happening right now is we have a backlog, and that backlog is matched with everything that we're seeing here in terms of what people are thinking about, what's being said in the industry, and then that informs the scheduling of what will be posted in the week, and that should account for, this accounts for 80% of what we'll get published. And then remaining 20% would be for things like big releases. And yeah, for me, that might actually be one of the videos in the week where we review a big release and then we see if it has any relevance whatsoever to what we are trying to do, right? So this one is unplanned reactive. So the only one that's actually reactive is the new tools one. Everything else from the spine and what we are recording philosophically should match with what people are thinking about right now, right? And that's derived from the market pulse, conversations, as well as what is said in the comments. The market pulse will then obviously inform the short form posts, right? And the other thing that will probably be informing a lot of this would be past content that has performed well, because that's a signal, right? So then it's really about tuning and understanding what's happening on performance. This is the goalpost to execute against this, and then this is the competitive review machine that we have just built. And again, because I'm focusing predominantly on YouTube, then LinkedIn and Substack is more about like the volume at the moment, and Substack will probably house my videos along with a write-up once I figure out how do I convert a lot of these videos into long-form content, right? That's part of the equation. But what that means right now is that I need to be building a content production engine, right? And I think that part is the one where, when I think about it, this is a pretty big build, in my opinion, because it synergizes my daily rituals, like what I was saying, to input into ideas. Ideas should then be written, built out by Eve, right? Yeah, so I've got to think about how that works right now. But this is where it's really two pieces of the puzzle, really, because you've got the analysis component, which are these pieces. So these are the analysis component, which we've done half of it. There is the content planner component, planning and scheduling and execution. And then there will probably be like a reaction bit component. So here. So for example, if something really blows up on X and it should take precedence in terms of what we write about. So for example, Opus 4.7 is such a big topic this week, as opposed to write about stuff that has been planned, I would hijack one of the short form post event, right? So there should be a reactive component, but I think we can build that out as a second part. The big part right now is that content engine. Okay, so that's what we are going to be building out right now. Sunday is going to be planning for me. Saturday is going to be content day outside of work. And basically that means videos, then posts, short form posts. And then eventually editing long form posts. Right, so all that happens here, creation of thumbnails, etc. And then, yeah. So this is going to be pretty interesting, right? So what I'm deliberating right now, what's happening here, I've got a content digest that is running every day. I've got a daily wrap and reflection that I do. And this journey generates insights, things to get me thinking about AI and how it's being deployed around the world across the different scopes. As I experience deploying and building AI, this is also a very rich repository of insights that can be captured, right? So I'm saying that if I was able to capture only 3 ideas every single day, right? What I'm deliberating right now is whether I should be adding my context and input at this stage. So then content ideas is basically just a log that has got name of the idea and then Sean's input. And then that just grows. Because what's happening here is I can then build a pipeline for a writer to just check off all the content ideas, right? One by one. Now, if I give it the rich input from here, at this stage, then it doesn't have to bother me and it can just go ahead and write. But what that means is that my daily wraps become a bit heavier. Yeah. Like right now, this takes about 15-20 minutes. If I add the fact that I need to give it input, what's gonna end up happening is it could take another 20 minutes, which is 1 hour in a day, which is too long, right? So that's the deliberation that I'm having right now on this adding context and input. The other thing that you could do, and there's two paths here, right? The first path is I give it a lot of input here, and then this is good. It goes straight into writing. Right, fantastic. The alternative is it researches first. Research first. And research means to say internet fact finding. And then scan my repo for things like my experiences, point of view. So that's going to be using things like TMD, wiki analysis, and then coming back to me with the output for me to then review. So I'm thinking so I'm deliberating what is the better way to do it. At the end of the day, when I am just about to wrap up, do I really want to be thinking about all of that additional context, or should we just capture? And I'm leaning more towards capture. Then what it will do is it will expand on those ideas in terms of talking points, do the research on the internet, on fact finding. It can do all of this in the background, present it back to me, and then I will then course correct it then before it then goes into the writer. Now, if we think about that workflow specifically, when will I then be reviewing? Because my game plan is here, right? Saturday, batch, doing everything. If what I need to do is I need to go and review all of what it's distilling for me first before it then goes into writing, it can happen here. So what happens then is we start off the session, I'm going through all of this, and then I will say this is a go, this one is no go, this is a go, this is no go, right? I'm going through every one of the posts and its angle, what hook it will be using. If we're writing hooks, I'm not a big fan of performative writing. So then it's just go, no go. And then after it goes into ghostwriting, and then I'll edit. Basically, there's the automated component to it. And then there's the review, which is a bit more manual. So let's just say in a week, we have 3 per day. In a week, you would have 21 in a week. And let's just say I reject half of it. That's still 10 in a week, right? For me to go through. Yeah, I think that's okay. So then we keep this light. The goal here at this point is to capture and nothing else. You know, this is capture zone. The research, basically, it's like understanding what are the key facts around it, any statistics to draw, and then getting my point of view across on the topic to then, frame out, maybe outline talking points. I feel this is feasible to do, right? And well, it's still quite a lot to review, to be honest. So that's what Saturday is for. Then when it comes to videos, let's not worry about that for now. The way I like to do my videos is that I don't plan anything. It's just a topic. And then I just riff. And I don't even do much editing. So for me, it's probably going to be figuring out like how people tend to do it, right? Which is see what short form post does really well, create a video for a long form for it. And that's a different pipeline down the line, I think. So for now, it's just the spine, which is the build in public. That can be 2 to 3 videos. That can be 2 videos a week. We then have launches and how that's relevant. I gotta figure out how that works. But I think for now, what's important for me is to get the short form writing pipelines done, and then we scale from there, right? Okay, sounds like we got a plan. basically we are done, I think, in terms of what we're doing on the short form writing piece. We have an ideas pipeline that comes from stuff that I am consuming. From a content standpoint, we've got our reflection practice. All that is added to my daily wrap as an additional step to ask me what am I thinking about adding to my content backlog. And then at least 3 ideas a day. Maybe that will scale down to 2, I don't know. But for now, let's just say 3. And then I can add some light context to it. I mean, if it's part of the reflection, what will end up happening is it would have quite a lot of context already. That stuff gets shared into a contents dash ideas. So I'm fixing my daily wrap to add an additional piece of the puzzle. The drafting pipeline, what's going to happen is this is autonomous. And what will happen is maybe once this has been updated, it runs at night while I sleep. So I research the topic, get statistics, find sources to make sure that stuff is solid, get my point of view on the topic. That can be done via semantic search. And then it will form a claim and then write an outline for me based on this, right? And each idea will then convert into its own folder here. This then gets pushed on Saturdays, right? All of the ideas goes into the next part of the workflow, from which I will then review on Obsidian probably, where we have a front matter that says approved, not approved. So I will probably require something here, something in between here lah. So it's probably going to be something. I don't know what that is at the moment, right? But something. Just scale this down, and then we'll go here, and this will decide if it's either one of these, right? This is more like it. Oh gosh. So we've got something that then routes either to be fixed or to be rejected, right? This should be a fairly simple thing to build. I haven't thought about what this interface looks like yet, but then once it's approved, it moves over to short form, from meta status sets to outline, and then added to the index. And what I mean by index, it is this, right? Then we run the ghostwriter skill, or writer skill, whatever you want to call it, and then it will then append the piece, the written piece, the final piece, to the idea document from meta set to draft, because it's been drafted already. Then it is the final step for me to review and edit, and then I'll set it to ready. Once it's ready, it means to say it's ready to be scheduled, right? Which the content planner will basically then go ahead and understand what's happening, what has historically worked for me thematically, what my strategy ultimately is, and what's the percentage and distribution of content that should be published. To then set the schedule, right? Short form, and mainly just the short form stuff for now. The video, again, I've got the spine right now, and there is a video pipeline that I need to build. At the moment, I haven't really thought through it enough, because what will happen is we'll probably be looking at, scripts, but again, that doesn't necessarily follow so much my style. And what I'm thinking, actually, what might be easier is this just goes through a different pipeline, which is a video production pipeline. So just me riffing on a topic. Yeah, actually, that's pretty simple, which is we've got a hook body inside. Now, what if this is video production pipeline, which is video, convert to video, right? I'm thinking this is what happens. I see something that is really good in terms of the outline, the idea. I think it's worthwhile developing a video. So the something maybe even goes into a separate pipeline where it just converts to video. And this then triggers a different pipeline from which we already have convert outline to talking points, their script. Okay. And because the way that I do my videos is not like highly scripted, talking points, right? It's mostly just talking points. And then that basically gets converted, that's pushed into video. We probably have a skill here, right? Let's just call it a video skill for now. And actually what it should be doing is it should be talking points, title, thumbnail, etc. all that stuff. Well, I think it's more talking points and title first, right? Maybe give me a starting hook for me to then riff. I like that. Because usually sometimes it's hard to get going, but once you get going, you're good. Wall Street. Idea. Adds to index, video index. And then fragmental set to probably not an outline, but scripted, right? And then what will happen is I will then record the video. This will be YYY dash a dash video dash video md, right? Let's just call it that. Sean records video, minor edits for things like studio voice, studio sound, and then video's description. Thumbnail. And there we go. I think we pretty much have it. And so then you can wrap this as the simple video pipeline that then goes into the content backlog. So we go from ideas to drafting to then writing or video, and this happens all on the Saturdays. Every day I'm just inputting ideas, so it's my ideas or it's inspired by stuff I've consumed, colored by my opinions, right? So giving some initial input, it's expanding on that input through research, through analyzing my vault, and then coming up with core claims, etc. Then creating an outline, convert into an ideas repository, but you don't know if that idea will be converted into a short form piece of content or a video content. Then it has two choices, right? It's probably a review. This thing is probably a review step, this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to drag this out. Yes, works, beautiful. So I'm gonna get rid of this, bring this over here. Okay, and we have something that looks like this. this up. Right, so then this is a review step, right? So this comes from here, and then it's either going here or going here, going here. So then it is review step with Eve. So even this is Alfred's stage. Drafting is Eve. Then it will be reviewing with Eve to then go and see an obsidian. I can look at it, or I could tell Eve to go and review all the ideas for me. So open Eve on one side, reviewing stuff on obsidian on the other side, and then basically talking through what I want to do. So I would say, hey, I want to... So this is probably going to be the workflow as well. Create into skill. Okay, now what are we doing here in terms of approved? This needs to be fixed. So then when it comes to skills that needs to be created, we have one here. I'm just gonna turn these into like diamonds. It's a video skill. We have a review skill. We have a ghostwriter skill for sure. And then we have this one for sure. This entire pipeline is a skill, right? So that tells me right now, I have just to build this pipeline, and then obviously the content planner here. This has already been built, so I'm just going to change the color to red. Okay, and then obviously we have a skill here that needs to be built, right? This is not a skill, but this needs to be developed as part of the infrastructure. So I'm going to just color it black, blue. Okay, so from a development standpoint, infrastructure, this one is an amendment to current skills. And okay, we've got every day, we've got automated, we have Saturday, let's go and develop, goes into a backlog, then Sunday, we plan and deploy. Now, if we look at how this has basically been evolved from this, right? We have everything that's the same: content strategy. We've got competitor market research. We've got the content planning in the week. We've got the creation of the content. But what's different is creation of the content happens outside of the planning, right? We've got other things that are about content repurposing, which will be down the line as I continue to evolve. Part of it would be converting the videos into writing, right? To then deploy my video scripts that have been published on, or rather the video once it's been recorded. In fact, I can do this, right? Goes back to the ghostwriter skill. Here we've got convert to your file content. It's perfect. Push it back to the ghostwriter skill. But so that's kind of a repurposing piece that maybe lives on Substack, right? The brain to content machine for me is this machine here. So the brain is my brain, my second brain inputting into stuff to then produce me that idea, or rather that refined idea. Review step. Yep. So yeah, we've got this built out, but in so much higher fidelity and aligned to how my life works, right? Taking advantage of daily wrap. I don't need to be a part of this. This is doing a lot of the heavy lifting to scan my second brain. We then have the review step. So this entire thing happens on Saturday, right? Let's see if I can just do this. So that's clarity, get it thicker. This entire thing is Saturday. Saturday is pretty heavy, I would say. But then what happens then is once I plan it on Sunday, what ends up happening is we just deploy. And I'm always going to be ahead on my content this way. Yeah, that's essentially the video for today. This gives me a really clear idea of step by step what we're looking to build in the coming videos, and I thought that this was definitely needed as I was thinking through how to approach this as a whole, because I have an idea but I just don't have the fidelity around how folders need to be structured. Right now we've got one skill and then we've got an outputs folder which then has quite a few things inside. So this view, and the reason why sketching this entire workflow out is important, is because it allows for you to understand how your folders need to be structured, how things are going to be flowing from one step to the next step, which gives your skills within them clear entry points and exit points. And those skills can then be tuned so that whatever that happens after, right, is taken into account when this workflow is being designed, when this workflow is being designed to then run. Okay, so hopefully you learned something today. Yeah, unfortunately not really building, but just a lot of architectural work. But once you have something like this built out, it's really quick for us to run through a lot of this. In terms of what else I'll be showing in terms of the build, things that will be interesting will probably be the drafting pipeline. The Ghostwriter skill is probably going to be something that you guys would be interested to see how it's built out. The content backlog, again, this is more piping, not so exciting. And then maybe just the content planner. So this one's been built. Channel performance, but for me, what I'll probably be showing you guys would be drafting pipeline, Ghostwriter skill, and probably the content planner as the next couple of videos to deep dive into some of these skill builds. And then I'll probably then do one final wrap up in this series around this entire workflow. Yeah, and that's what I've planned out for now.